Golf course, we had a number of items that were brought up last night, mainly by the mayor. We really haven't, she's not here now, but we talked about them, I suppose. And then we have the Humane Society coming at 5:30 and the people from the zoo coming at 6. So the agency requests are for discussion this evening, and then we can hopefully start getting down to where we have to be at the towards the end of this week. Like I say, we have the hearing coming up on December 1st. We don't have a lot of time. Could meet again next week. One of those days, I suppose, but, if you had. But Randy's here. Maybe Randy give a recap of where things are at this year and extravaganza money and what that's being used for, and cameras and et cetera, et cetera.
I guess it was a slow start to the year. We started late again, and it was wet at the beginning, and October was pretty decent. November kind of shut us down quick. Probably in the same boat as we are last year. Same, I would say. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty close to that.
I think we're 22, 23,000, but extravaganza, we raised somewhere around $16,000, and we put that in the city fund, and that's going towards a new fairway mower, with the condition that the extravaganza raise more money and pay that off over the next few years, or hopefully in a year, maybe two. I don't know. Depends on what we raise. So, we had some wet conditions issues out there that were bad for us this year. That we had a lot of drainage on our property from other properties this year.
Of course, all fairways are all irrigated?
Yes.
Okay.
2003, we stuck a $300,000 system into it.
Yeah. I think the mayor had said that last night she had some complaints that the fairways were in tough shape for some reason or other. Don commented he never uses them, so it wasn't a big deal.
It may have been. We were without water for a couple weeks because of a lightning strike. We lost power. We had to trace down the wiring, and we also lost a $2,000 40-horse motor. So that had to all get replaced. But if they dried out a little bit, and also in the spring, it was a rough year for winter kill. We don't spray our fairways for winter kill for gray snow mold or pink snow mold. So therefore, it was a harsher winter. The ground stayed under cover for a lot longer than normal, from almost the first week in November till April 21st. Excuse me. So it was a long year for snow coverage. So therefore, the grass did die a bit. So, but they made a nice comeback. We aerated them this fall. Yeah, we aerated them and overseeded them this fall.
That might have related to the concern after the lightning strike that we had. And the public may or may not know that there was a lightning strike and we were out for a couple weeks in the middle of the summer. It can be tough. We handed out this information, and this goes month by month, and it starts back in 2010. To today. And as I mentioned last night, if you look at October 2014 and you go back to October of 2013, we're real close from the standpoint of revenue and expense. Now you see expense has gone up a little bit, about $5,000 here, but you can see revenue has also gone up in the course between. If you look at 13 versus 14, and here we just we didn't use the revenue and expense all the way down, but in the previous years we just kind of made a running total of where we were from a cash standpoint. As you can see, in 2012, a real good year. Started real early, went real late, and ended up, from a cash standpoint, down at about $2,400, $2,500 in the hole. Here, based on what I'm seeing, October to October, probably looking at about the same amount of loss at the end of the year. 2013, 2014. So that's I was mentioning that last night. It looks real similar to what it looked like last year. So, like I say, I mean, it's very, very dependent on weather. I did look, or Lori did look back on the, I mentioned a newspaper article a number of months ago when we were talking about the golf course, and I did find that there were 6 out of 41 municipal courses that actually turned a profit back in 2011, according to the state auditor's office. So 6 out of 41. It's we'd like to be 7 out of the number 7 out of 41, obviously, but you know, there's some pretty big operations. Edinburgh was really where the story came out about Brooklyn Park, and I mean they're losing tons of money. And you look back and you think you know $20,000 you know isn't out of hand, isn't too terrible. It'd be nice to be able to move that up. How many memberships do we have? That was another question for
Approximately 275.
275. What was the peak?
2000 or 1998, there was 555.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That's when your Oak Hill, your Eagles Landing, your Blackberry Ridge came in. You had 5 new courses built in the area in a matter of 5 years there.
Yeah.
And the economy is way different than it is now.
So basically, it's in half from there.
Yeah. And then we did have a discussion a little bit about the cameras last night, and I know that you and I and Greg talked about getting those piped into some other location, and we'll continue to work on that. But POS system, you're updating on all that. We talked about inventory and getting that done before the end of the year. And then there was some discussion of just making sure that everything is recorded and priced appropriately based on the inventory and the controls, and we'll work on that. We talked about if need be, if you need some help, we can send someone from our office down for a couple hours here and there, and you know, run through all that stuff. Sometimes it takes 2 people to do some of those things, so you know, to be able to work that out. So we keep, you know, we try to stay on it. You know, it isn't. It's so weather related, and it was you know, pretty overbuilt. I mean, there's courses closing everywhere. Just trying to I don't know if there. What other? Remember the other questions that we have.
I believe the mayor wanted a list of improvements from the 2000 till now. It's close to $1 million of improvements that we've done. I've got it estimated at $950,000 overall improvements in 15 years. So if it was an asset, it'd be something, but obviously it's a deficit.
One of the other questions that was asked was the Gulf Extravaganza. So this is, they started, their group started in 2010, had their event. So you can see the first year, you know, they raised $17,000. In 2011 was just over 14, 2012 was just over 15, and 2013 was 11, and 2014 was just over $11,000. With that, they bought the mower, they paved some of the cart paths, bought some tables, did some repairs to the irrigation. As of the end of, right now, there's 11,000, they're sitting here in the city, $11,494. And then the council approved purchase of that mower at $34,000. So, you know, 2 more events and they should have the mower paid off. So that's just kind of a recap of what the extravaganza has done.
Well, and I'd say as far as budgeting goes, I believe we had the conversation earlier in the year that it was an asset to the community. And I thought the intention was to continue to move forward with it. And if we need to support it, we're better off with it than we are without it. That was the understanding I got.
Yeah, we included the $25,000. That was in the 2014 budget, as we talked about last night. We'll make those transfers coming up here, but we did include another $25,000 in the budget for 2015. So it is there. It should help. Obviously, there's some longer term debt out there, and I think it was like around $500,000 or so that it might be in the hole. But you know, Randy and I talked a little bit about what are some other options. I mean, if it's billboards or if it's, advertising, and we're getting those really basically for nothing, almost. And we'd like to get a billboard on the right side, east side of the highway as you're driving up, because that's kind of the spot more people are looking at. I'd like to do that. There might be a way of trying to do that with Franklin, because we got a billboard we got to negotiate on by the salt area. So there might be some horse trading that we can do as we negotiate that. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. It has to come back to you anyways.
So not to go backwards, but have you ever looked at or checked into going down to a 9 instead of an 18?
I never have, no.
As far as upkeep and maintenance on the other 9, would it do? Because the 9 holes, the front 9, we can't do nothing with, suppose it, right? That's deeded to the city. And
You've actually got, you would have to redesign your course because it's both sides. 8 and 9 on the part of 7, 8 and 9 are part of that lease property, and then your 16, 17, and 18 are on that.
or if the other 9, if the city could sell that land and use that to improve. I don't know what's out there, so I couldn't tell you. You can tell me where hole 9 is, and I couldn't. I've never
We
been
should
on the
do
course.
golfing once in a while. I'll take you out
Yeah,
there.
either, I think the draw for the golfer person, the golfer's gonna look for an 18.
For an 18 versus a 9.
Yeah.
That's what
Mine is just.
What part of the revenue is from meals? The food that you sell?
I don't have that breakdown, but it's a smaller amount. You've
Does
got-
that help
you-
you at all?
You can look at your.
110,000 is membership, 73,000 is green fee.
No.
It's on page 60 of the budget packet. It's
Your
on
packet's
page
on there.
60. And there's a breakdown, I'm sorry, Randy, I didn't mean to interrupt, but there's a breakdown of by line items. So, our food sales in 2012 were 43,000, 2013 were 41,000, right now we're at 33,000, and then typically there are some Christmas parties and those kinds of things that'll come in yet before the end of the year.
Yeah, 7. How many Christmas parties you got coming up?
7,
Yeah.
plus the Lions Club every Thursday evening. So yeah, the food is a smaller part, and it was always a bigger loss. And it was open a lot more, and we curtailed that quite a little to cater to the golfer more so than the public.
And we met, Randy, myself, and Jerry, we went up to Brainerd and met with the Small Business Administration lady up there just to kind of talk about pricing and, where we were at and stuff. And, that was one of her suggestions is we aren't a full-fledged restaurant. You're not going to make money being a full-fledged restaurant, so you're going to, cut down your menu. You're providing a service to your golfers. If you have the parties out there that you have a captured audience, you know how many people you're cooking for, that's okay, but we're not going to make money being a restaurant and trying to be open and catering to the public. So that's why, the menu got cut down some, like Randy
And the
said, there
hours.
wasn't open as much. And
I hear a lot of compliments about the food, especially the cheeseburgers at
Yeah.
lunchtime.
Well, I hope that stays that way. We lost our cook is retiring this year, so, but I still have one that's been there for 14 years.
So as far as the pro shop this year, did you do much in there?
Not a lot. I put in a few shoes. I bought gloves and balls and a few oddball things that people special ordered.
We didn't have all the shirts and.
No, I still have a bunch of them from previous years, but we're downsizing that, and as soon as we get that downsized, it'll go to special order only. It's just kind of a major overhead we don't need.
Right.
Well, it's ironic because I have a lot of people that come to me and say, God, you don't know when you can eat out at the restaurant. There's a lot of community members that I think don't understand why it was cut back, that it's a financial thing, because I think they're still looking at it as a choice to dine in the community. And so they say, God, their menu is so limited, I can't believe it. And and things like that. So, you know, it's almost like we go back and forth with that, and I don't think we have a true identity either way yet.
Our hours have been set for 3 years now, 11 till 3, Monday, or Tuesday and Wednesday till dark, and weekends on special occasions, or special events. So that's been 3 years running now, and trying to keep it consistent like that. And our menu, the way this advisor had explained it to us, you know, if you've got cheese on it, let's be out using it in 3 or 4 different items, otherwise you're losing money with it, so that's the route we took. I'm not a restaurateur, I'm a superintendent. I know golf and grounds. I'm not a bartender, I'm not a manager of a pro shop, I'm not a cook, a restaurateur. My
You're
field
pretty good
specialty
cook.
is,
You're a really good cook, aren't you?
my specialty is, my field and my education is in golf. So,
Anybody else got any questions, Randy?
No, I was just gonna say, there's no doubt it serves benefit to the community. We don't wanna lose our golf course, but on the other hand, sure would be nice if we could break even.
I agree with you
That's
100%.
a complaint I hear from everyone in town. If there is a complaint, it isn't bad fairways or that it's a bad course or anything. It's just, we're losing money on the thing, and they're concerned about that. If there's a way we could break even on this thing,
How much
I'm all
money do we
for it.
lose on other parks?
they're considered parks, you know.
I
Is this just a park for a certain group of people? This isn't a park that's open for everyone. Only people who can go out there are those who can afford it, which a lot of people can't.
Go out there, come out there on Monday and see how many kids are out there that are
Well,
doing it for free.
we're just saying that the economy isn't doing that well, and that's why it's suffering. So that means there's a lot of people who aren't able to go out there, because if they were, the attendance would be up and stuff right now. I would like to see a break even.
Oh,
We
everybody would like to see it
gotta
break
push
even.
for a way, but, you know, if we're gonna throw $25,000 a year just to cover it, because we're gonna accept the fact that for the next 20 years, it's gonna be bringing $25,000 in a hole, I'm not for that. I'm just voicing my opinion here.
Well, to me, that's no different than what we're looking at for a splash pad skate park. How many
Do we
dollars-
have that splash pad?
I know we don't have it, but that's a whole other thing. It's
It
in the
won't
budget.
go. It won't go now.
Right.
I mean, so there's nothing for the kids. We're catering here just for a select group of people.
I want to say there's nothing for the kids.
There's a lot for the kids.
Frank, I happened to mention to our extravaganza and also to our men's league that maybe a 5% increase would be in line for this coming year for memberships. And 5% isn't a lot, but 5% of $100,000 is something. And if that can go towards that, hopefully that can push towards that item. You know, we're kind of in line, we are in line with green fees with the rest of the area. And that's tough to push. Your membership, they'll do that because they don't want to travel out of town. They can come and play. There's some guys that play that course, and they play it often enough where it's down into 35 cents a round for them to play. You know, where others play it 10 times a year and pay their $500 and it costs them $50. But, you know, so that's one way to do it, and the members feel that that isn't way out of line. It's still a very economical course to play. So I don't know if that helps your mind set it all.
I just think that, you know, we do need a board out there. We're required to have one. Maybe following year here, we could pursue this a little harder and get some people who understand the golf course. See if there's a way to do it.
I agree.
And the committed group, I don't know if that's possible, but it sure would be nice. But
If I can just state my opinion on that, Randy's the only department head that would report to a board, and I don't know that that's appropriate. He reports to us. The extravaganza group is a great group. They give him a lot of input, and they're not a city committee. They can raise funds. I mean, I think we're in the same catch-22 as you get into like the sister city group where you don't, you have a group that can't raise funds, but the group that you want is the group that you want to raise funds, so.
Isn't
I
it
just-
required to
I
have
don't-
a board there?
Only
Isn't
by
that a
your-
requirement?
By our city code.
By our city code,
But you
right
can-
now.
You
You
can
do.
change that.
Well,
No,
we
I
can
think- I think
change
you
it,
should
we
get rid
could
of it.
change a lot of things.
We tried to
But-
change it one time and then it was voted down.
I just think you should get rid of it. I don't see a need for that board. I think you got the extravaganza group, and we talked to Jeremy about attending those meetings, and I think that's just a better way. That's just my opinion. You guys make the decisions. We'll probably talk about this again, in the upcoming year, I don't know, but just,
Well, you
I don't know why
Randy-
Randy should report to a board like that when nobody else does.
Randy
Greg doesn't,
himself
Lori
said
doesn't,
he
nobody-
thought we should have a board.
It's nice to have a sounding board such as the extravaganza. Advisory board was wonderful when we had an advisory board that were among a lot of members, golfers. Our last advisory board were people from outside the area that didn't know anything about golf. One
Yeah.
person attended one meeting, one attended 2 in 3 years. I mean, you need consistency, you need a form.
And somebody who understands everything
Understand.
out there.
But right now, if you're a part of the extravaganza, you can't be part of the advisory board. So therefore, if you're a part of the men's league and building money for that, you can't be a league member then either. It's a catch-22, so therefore you can't be have full interest in that golf course and support it by being on a board. We need something to change there.
What personally do you feel if you had a good group of people that you could sit down and talk with once in a while, hash things through, maybe operate it where it could produce a little more income or something, would you want such a board?
I feel we have that in the extravaganza. I sound off them quite a lot.
Okay.
And I also sound off our men's league board. We have several boards. The women's league has a board, the men's league has a board, the extravaganza has a board. We used to have an advisory board. So there are several boards, and I attend a lot of those meetings. So I do get input, because I sit in with the ladies league and get their input, and I sit in with the men's league and get their input. But, yeah.
I think we're always looking for a way we can bring this to where we break even, but I haven't seen it in the 6 years I've been on here. Every year we've lost money. Economy or what? How long do we continue losing it? What's more important? Yes, we have to look at things like that.
Yeah, that's your decision.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I have.
Well, I just say that I have a lot of people from outside our community that come through Coburn's, and without fail, they tell us, boy, you guys are lucky to have a golf course along the Mississippi River, and that is a beautiful, unbelievable course. And, and it's hard to measure if they spend money in our hotels, if they spend money in our bars, our restaurants, or if they continue to come back for that same reason. And so the greens fees also have an effect on it, what it does for the kids program. And I'd like to see the golf program back into the shape it was
Yes.
20 years ago, because I think that stimulated more interest as they grow up. They continue to play it if they're around here. But I agree, it'd be great to get back to not losing money, but to think we're going to do it in a year. And I know, Frank, you said it's been 6 years, and I look at 2012 and it lost less than 2,500. And I don't know what dictated that, if it was just a great summer or what happened. But if you think there's room to wiggle a little bit on memberships, the greens fees are extremely competitive everywhere with the cancer cards and all the cards, and everybody's got coupons and 18 holes and food they're throwing in. So that's a competitive market, so you just gotta fight for your life with that. And I think we did a good job of that.
So Randy, thinking of raising your fees 5%, you chase, what, five members, 10 members away?
I don't know.
You back down to you're losing money anyhow, then if you,
Yeah, I'm not.
you got 200 members,
Yeah.
and if you lose 10 of them because you raise your fees 5%, you're going backwards.
That's a possibility, but it's,
Right.
I guess I've sounded it off several of them, a lot of the men's league and a lot of the members that have been there a long time don't seem to have a problem with it. We're still in line with everybody else. Long Prairie is $200-300 a single membership higher than we are. Oak Hill is up there along that. Eagles Landing is a lot closer to what we have. But they also don't like going to Eagles Landing and taking 5.5 hours to play 18 holes either. They like to do it in their 4 hours, so
Yeah.
that is a trade-off.
And Randy and I will review the race membership rates and stuff before we set them and then
Yeah.
bring them to the.
Of course, yeah.
2015 rates.
I'd like to get that done I kind of like to look at when everybody comes online and puts theirs in there, so we know we're not the trendsetter,
Any more questions? Otherwise, we'll go on to Humane Society, I think is up. Thanks, Randy.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
If you want to stand at the podium.
Randy. Randy.
All right. Well, I'm here with the Morrison County Humane Society, and I brought some information I can just kind of go through really briefly and then, I guess, answer some questions. I've provided our numbers year-to-date on the animals we've seen at the shelter. Just briefly for strays, City of Little Falls, cats, we have 138 so far. Dogs, we took in 78. The stray cats account for, from the city, account for 84% of the strays. Dogs, 72%.
Excuse me, so the Humane Society is on page 17 of your budget packet, and theirs is the miscellaneous line item number 40. Sorry,
No problem. And I included the previous year's numbers just to kind of give a full year and maybe a little bit of comparison. Last year, it looks like the numbers were up. Our numbers are down a little bit as far as animals we've taken in, which we like. But it looks like last year, 93% of the stray cats were from the city of Little Falls, and 67% of the dogs. So that kind of gives you a picture. I've also included, if you'd like to look at our adoption and claim by owner rates. Just in general, our return to owner rate is, for cats, it's very low. This year, it's been only 4 out of all 164 we've taken in. Dogs, it looks like there's been 51 that have been claimed. So we have a little bit higher rates. In general, based on national statistics, we're pretty in line with that's essentially what the numbers are for return to owner throughout the country. So you can take a look at that. I've included also for you just some information. When we get an animal in, there's some basic care that we provide for all of them. The first thing is vaccines, and for us we found that vaccinating, it's actually more cost efficient to vaccinate if we don't. Inevitably, a dog or cat's going to come in with sickness and it's going to spread through the building, and that ends up being more expensive and more work to deal with. So I have a breakdown of what the vaccine costs are. I've also included our spay neuter, which is something we're trying to do for all of our animals before they leave. It's not, we're not at 100%, but we all are giving out a coupon for people to do that on their own if the animal leaves before that's done. I have our fees for impound, you know, what we collect from people if they come to claim their dog, and then some of our adoption fees. I have a proposed budget for 2015, and trying to think for, you can take a look at that. We're working really hard to do a lot more fundraising, grant writing, that sort of thing to get some funds in. We've also started rooming at the shelter, which is running a small income for us. We're basically trying to generate as much income as we can, because you'll see from our profit and loss on the last page, and this has been a pattern for as long as I can go back in the books, that the shelter has been struggling financially and ending the year in the red. So this year we're asking for a pretty big increase, and we need that increase in order to cover our expenses. Essentially, if we don't get that increase, I'm not sure if we'll be able to operate for the year. I've included as well, we're trying to, you know, have we're trying to switch things a little bit for the townships, where we're going to do a similar contracting with them, where they pay a fee per household, and then we take whatever strays that they provide to us. So I don't know if that kind of covers it. If there's any questions, I'm sure there are some. Our biggest expenses, I guess, are our payroll expense, and that's something as a shelter where we have animals coming in and out. We're there 365 days a year. Whether we're open or closed, we still have to be there to feed and care for the animals. Our second biggest expense is our vet care costs, and that's something, you know, if an animal comes in sick or hurt, we definitely have to tend to that so that they're well cared for.
What's the request?
What's the
Is it 65 or is it 70?
well, yeah,
It says it
70.
here, 70.
We talked about 70. I talked with Lori about 70 originally. It might be 65 over there. But then we received a bigger increase from the county, Morrison County. So I think was it adjusted in your?
Well, no, actually, I think the 65 came from, it was back, 2 months ago or
Yeah.
something, when you brought in your
Yep.
profit and loss, and
Yep.
that's what the profit and loss was at
Yep.
that time.
Yep.
Was what the schedule was, so that's what I stuck in
Yep.
here.
Okay.
But then now I see your profit and loss is at
74.
or,
Yep.
and then this includes the increase that you received from the county, right?
In the profit and loss, it does not.
In the request, I mean.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Without an increase, without
Sure.
some kind of an increase, how
Sure.
long can you operate?
Without an increase, something like what we have here, I don't think we would operate for the year. I think it would probably be something where we would get a plan to transition the shelter back to the city, or to the city. I don't know if we could operate for it would be a big struggle, and I would worry that we wouldn't be able to pay our employees, and we wouldn't be able to properly care for the animals. So that's kind of where we're at.
Have you had any, have you had any success with the townships?
There are several townships that we've just approached them with the actual documents, so we haven't heard back from a lot of them, but there are several that we have heard back from that are interested and willing to sign on for the new contract, and that should bring us more financial support. You know, when you look at the numbers that, you know, the 80, I forget what it is, you know, 84% came from the city. They did, but they maybe didn't. You know, with the way the townships work now, it's complicated and difficult, and I think there are a lot of the dogs and cats that maybe are getting dropped in the city. For example, we had 6 cats on our doorstep this morning. You know, they're counted as a city stray because they came in, they're abandoned in the city. Did they come from the city? I would probably guess probably not. So it's hard to know, and with that with the new contract for the townships, we're kind of structuring it similar to this, and hopefully if we can get, you know, ideally all of them to sign on to it, we get a better picture, and the financial responsibility would be more evenly distributed. I
But
guess.
Rose, isn't it true through history, the townships have really not wanted to help? So Dan, that's been a long struggle with the townships.
Yep, that's true. You know, I mean, there are some, there's a couple that are very good about it. There are a lot that don't really want to be involved at all, so,
They use a 22 shell.
yeah.
I've been dealing with this, for a long time.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
It's,
I know when Brainerd could have told me that size, I think we were paying $70,000, $80,000 a year on animal control. Drives you nuts, but you get a box of cats or a box of dogs that end up at the holiday station, what are you doing with them?
If we didn't have this group, then we would get in such trouble.
Well, there's no doubt, and as, I knew Rose's answer. And what happens if you don't get some funding? You're gonna give it back to the city. Well, I tell you what, we're not gonna run it cheaper. Not when you got unions and pay equity and everything else. I mean, I don't think, I mean, it just, I don't know what, it's kind of it's a 7-day-a-week job as well. I mean, someone's gotta come in on Saturday and Sunday and holidays and Christmas and whatever, and feed and do whatever, so. You know, it's up to you, the dollar amount, of course. I mean, we don't want anything to do with it. From a staff standpoint, I mean, whatever they're doing here. The $65,000 is in your budget. I mean, it's you see the number in here. So if that's the dollar amount you want to do, or if you do something different with that, then we would talk about it from there.
So this minus 74,000, that is so far this year where you're at in
Yep.
operating, so
Yep,
how do you have to pay that before you can go into next year?
yep.
So is
And-
that added into next year's budget?
No, where a lot of that has come from, and it's very, very unfortunate, I should have had a balance sheet here, but the group, we did have a large donation to the shelter years and years ago, and that money has been chipped away at for operating expenses for, I mean, as long as it's been there, it seems to be. And we're running out with that, and it's not, I don't feel it's responsible to continue to do that either. I mean, it's unfortunate that that's happened, so that's where that's being made up,
And our community's been quite fortunate from that generous donor.
Yep,
And it's time that we take leadership and help you with that.
yes, thank you.
How much did the county? How much were they? How much did they go up?
They gave us 20,000 this year, for 2015, they're giving us 30,000.
They're up for 30. They went
Yep.
up 10.
Yep.
Say, Rose, I've got a question for you. If I'm reading this right, we've got about 216 animals this year, including the dogs and cats.
Yes, and there might be, there-
Looking at over page 5, I think.
for the intake of personally, the animal care.
Yep, for a total of $94,000, 416
Yep.
cents, or $416. That comes out to about $437 per animal. Is there any way to do that
And that's,
less expensive?
yep, and that's kind of if we did everything, like, that we, like, spayed and neutered everybody got all of their vaccines, you know, we heartworm test some of, if they're a puppy, they don't need a heartworm test, that sort of thing. I mean, we've talked as an organization about cutting things like vaccines and the heartworm testing. We've cut down spay and neuter, because that's something that can be more, I guess, you know, it's not gonna necessarily affect their health while they're there. But it comes down to for like the vaccines and that sort of thing. If we stop doing Bordetella, for example, which is kennel cough, I don't know how familiar, it's like it's a cough. It's not gonna probably kill them, but you have to treat it. And to treat, if one dog comes in with it, we're treating all of them, and the expense to do that is cheaper than to just use the, $4.50 vaccine for the dogs when they come in.
Sure.
So, that's kind of the ideal scenario is if they came in and we gave them everything they wanted, we spayed and neutered them. But this also doesn't include if they come in and they're sick and we need to bring them to the vet and they need, antibiotics, or they need, have a laceration that needs to be sutured. So all of those, there's so much variability there. It's hard to give, that next year our vet costs will be, so.
Is it something where, I know St. Cloud has tri-county committees, so have we explored, contracting it out to them as far as those type of services? I don't know what they charge.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, $440 per animal seems like a lot.
Yep, and it is, it's a lot, it can be very expensive. And this, includes, their care, some of them are there shorter, so there's some variability there. I mean, the longer they're there, the more expensive it is for staff and all sorts of things. We've started, if we have overflow animals, we've started, and we've done this, I think, the last 3 years, we will transfer out, animals if other groups will take them. Right now, we are looking to try and do that for some cats, because we're just overrun with cats. It seems to be that's a pattern. But yeah, that's something we could explore. We're always looking to do things cheaper. A lot of our vet costs, like rabies and that sort of thing, is done. We have a low-cost spay neuter truck. You might have seen it in the parking lot over there that comes once a month. So we take advantage of that as much as we can. That's so.
So what determines if a cat or dog gets euthanized then? Time that they've been there type of deal?
We
or?
don't do anything as far as, they've been here X amount of time, it's time to euthanize. If there's aggression issues, if they're not adoptable as far as being, they're not friendly or that sort of thing, we can usually try and transfer them out. If they're sick, that may be something where we'll euthanize them. I'd say sickness or aggression are the two. We haven't had to euthanize for space yet, being that we're transferring out a lot of our animals, but that's something right now we're verging on if we don't find somewhere for some cats. So it's primarily for sickness, I would say, or aggression that is our euthanasia.
Rose, at $430 per animal, but that includes like the electric bill.
Yep, the overhead of the building.
So you can't just say, well, gosh, my cat doesn't cost $430.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're taking the whole facility.
Exactly, and our insurances, we have a lot of, things that we pay for on that building. Insurance, water, we use a lot of water, staff, cleaning supplies, all sorts of, things like that to keep that building up and running.
Well, our community, our residents are gonna have to assume the responsibility one way or the other, either with tax dollars or by taking care of their pets and doing the right thing with them.
And I think that building wasn't that donated also?
It was, yeah.
And so, I mean, we have to really appreciate that also.
Yes.
What's happening in a lot of places, I'm into bird watching, so we're kind of up in arms about communities who spay their animals and turn them loose.
Sure.
They just take cats, spay them, turn them loose, and let them live out their life until they die. They can't have any more. But that's a lot less expensive. $440 is a lot of money per animal. How much do you charge to adopt them out?
For adoption, I have here cats. Well, right now we're having a kind of a special on cats. It's usually $50 for adoption. Right now we have a name your price with a $10 minimum because we're just so full. Dogs we have at $100. So it's kind of a balance because if you put it too high, if we said, okay, this dog is $500 because we need to cover the cost of him being here, he's going to be there forever. Maybe, you know, one person, you know, the chances of adopting a dog at $500 in this community are slim to none. So it's a balance of, you know, putting it at a reasonable amount so that you're getting something back, but also not putting it too high so that they're there forever and it's, you know, not feasible for someone to take home, so.
What usually happens to me, I get a free cat from a farm.
Yeah.
I take it in and I give the shots, have it spaded. I go through the whole process, which costs me a lot of money, when I could have got that cat all top, right,
Yep.
ready to go for $50.
Yep.
You know, is there a way to advertise that? Keep people from just bringing in animals?
Yeah, I mean, we have some of that printed out, you know, because the cost for people that have animals, the cost for bringing them to the vet and just even keeping them up to date and you don't even have any problems on their vaccines is probably more than $100 for you to do that, so, yeah. So we, I mean, you know, we've had it a little bit higher in the past. We've kind of lowered it now because we're on the very full side and we want to, you know, encourage people to come in. So it is a big balance to try and, because like I said, the longer they're there, the more expensive it gets for us, so.
Is there a way to kind of track where the animals are coming from? I guess, are a lot of them puppies and kittens that are coming? And if so, are they repeat vendors, so to speak, where we can encourage them, hey, bring your adult ones here, let's get them spayed and neutered, so we don't keep having this problem with 200 animals a year type of thing?
Yep, exactly. We do try and do that, you know, encourage especially people bringing in like a litter of cats or litter of puppies, and if they're doing it frequently, we try and, you know, help encourage them to, you know, get them on at least the low-cost spay neuter bus. And we do try and promote that. With the strays, it's hard to know, you know, where they originated from. There are times people bring in a dog or a cat as a stray, and we're, you know, pretty sure it was theirs. That will happen, but there's no way to prove it. We just, you know, and like I said, we can track where they come from as far as stray from the city of Little Falls, stray, you know, city of Piers, but I have a feeling there's a lot of, in the numbers you get from the city, there are a lot of migrating in from outside areas.
Any more questions of the Humane Society?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a comment, please. I have been a resident here for 20 years, and I'm troubled by a lot of things that I have witnessed, and that is a really constant turnover of staff. A few years back, there was a really bad stench in the building. I'm troubled by some of the laughter over the use of a gunshot to kill an animal. That seems really crude, crass, and out of place for a community council that supports kindness. So I just want to share that. I witnessed as an 8-year-old girl dogs being killed by gunshot by the police department in the town I lived in, and that's what spurred me to become an animal activist. I have been honored by another humane society in another county for investigative work that I did to shut down a very illegal practice that was going on with the knowledge of the county commissioners. They knew this practice was going on. They were injecting black leaf 40, which is a rose insecticide, under the front arm of the dog. They were having older senior veterans, military veterans, do this. And it appeared that the dog was not suffering, but it was asphyxiating to death and bleeding to death. It was a horrible practice. The Humane Society, nationally, internationally, everybody condemned this practice, but this went on. I think that this city council needs to have at least 2 members on the board to protect, for all kinds of reasons, for oversight reasons. You have staff that's administering or overseeing vaccinations going on here, and I'm not saying anything is illegitimate or not right, but I think it's really important for city council members, at least 2, to be on board this staff to attend the meetings to see what is going on. And Dan's right. It would cost a lot more for this city to operate a pound. Someone has to do it, it's an expensive cost. I suggested the last time you talked about Humane Society dollars, there be a mandatory spay and neuter program in this city. It's long overdue nationwide. International, we should be doing this. We have a crisis of an overpopulation of animals in the world. And there's an incredible amount of animal suffrage that doesn't need to be occurring. So that's my suggestion that, and I'd be happy to sit on the board. I'd love to be sitting on your board. I have a lot of experience in running my own little adoption service that came, the dogs that were coming out of that facility, I took a lot of them in and helped them get adopted on my own nickel. Before the commissioners, once they knew about this, changed the practice and started using sodium pentobarbital to put them to sleep via the local veterinarian, which should have been done that way in the first place. So those are my suggestions. I hope you take them, and if you let me know when the first board meeting is, I'll be happy to come and become a member.
Anybody else have any questions? Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
The zoo's not here yet?
Yep, they are actually in the back hall, so if you're ready for
Yep,
them.
yep, we're ready for the zoo.
The zoo is on page 32. You can use the podium if you want, and if anybody else wants to talk.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I have something to hand out, can I do that? Sure. Yes, I do, I just can't, I have fumble fingers. I think you get 2 pages there. Or you need
That's yours.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. I want to thank you first for taking the time to talk with us as Friends of the Zoo. And I want to tell you a few things that's going on at the zoo. I'm just going to kind of highlight what I just gave you. For the first time since we've been running the zoo, we had a year that was less than last year. The winter started out, remember last winter, it seemed like we were going to freeze the whole year. And it was extremely cold and snowy. And so our heating, our electric, our snow plowing, all of that was a lot more than normal. Probably everybody's in the room was. And then this year, we also had a year that was a lot of rain. Rain, all but 3 or 4 days in June. And it seemed like every weekend we had 1 or 2 days that rained, or it threatened to. And I don't know if you guys are used to this, but when people think it might rain and you're going to an outdoor event, sometimes you hold back and think, I'll go another weekend. So a lot of the weekends we had 1 or 2 rainy days that seemed to be a problem all summer. And when you have a very short season like we have, losing a couple of those weekends in a row is something that's really hard to get back. So we had about 7,000 people less this year at the zoo. We still had about 24,000 visitors, and that includes members, it includes 3 years and under, which is free, and it includes groups, and then our regular admissions. And despite the bad weather, the tough weather, we actually had more educational programming for this season, so that was actually the positive. Even though it did seem to rain, they all made rainy day second schedules, and we were able actually to rebook them at a later time. We started back, we thought in the beginning of July that it was going to be a little tough because already in June we had some hard times, and we thought we were going to have a little bit of harder time for the rest of the year, so we actually started cutting back. And as you guys who run the business knows, you still have to pay your employees, you still have to have the lights on, you still have to feed the animals, and ours are the four-legged kind, so if they don't get fed, it's really ugly. And so there was a few things we obviously couldn't cut back, but we started to cut back on things that we could. This year, the zoo held the first ever Zoo Fest instead of Zoo Boo. When we started the Zoo Boo 11 years ago, for those of you who can remember, there wasn't a lot going on in town for the zoo, or as far as trick-or-treating, and so we decided that we would do the Zoo Boo. But over the years, almost every church, every group, almost every house is having parties of that, and the Zoo Boo started to decrease. So we wanted to do something a little different. We held the first ever Zoo Fest and thought, well, we'll move at the beginning of October, so we'll have it much warmer, and we'll do it in the day, so it's much nicer. It was 37 degrees and 42-mile-an-hour winds. We actually had tents flying over fences. But despite that, we still had 423 visitors. And if you compare that to the first year of the Zoo Boo, we had 491. So we're within pretty close. And considering that, everybody was in parkas the October 6th, probably not too bad of a turnout for that particular day. We are for the first time asking the City Council for the interest from the Crafty Fund. We've never done that. We've never had to do that. We've always had extra money. We always put it right back into the zoo with a lot of improvements and different things like that. This year, we don't have that. We don't have our cushion. And so we are asking the council to accept and pass that we would get the interest to get through to the first of the year and then through the winter, as we don't have that pot sitting there. And I'm talking with other zoos, resorts, different things like that. They all had bad years. A lot of the small zoos had bad years. What I didn't realize and didn't know until this year is most small zoos get operating loans every single winter to get through the winters. Very fortunately, we've not had to do that. I really don't want to start to do that because I think that starts to dig you a hole that you can't get out of. So we are requesting the funds, the interest from the Crafty Fund to get us through the winter, and we would, if we don't use it, we want to actually keep it as a little, I don't know how much we're going to use because I don't know how much snow we're going to get, but we are going to need that to get through the winter. It's been a difficult year. I've always been very straightforward and honest with you guys. Every year I've been able to come here and it's always been positive and great. And we're still positive and great, but we just had a hard year. And any of you who owns businesses or manages them knows that there can be difficult times sometimes, things outside of our control. And doggone it, we have not yet figured out how to control Mother Nature. We'd like to try, but we just can't. The other thing I'd like to ask the council, we have it with our budget, just the regular budget, we're not asking anything different than our normal 110, which is what we've been getting. And the 6,600, which we get with the contract with the Friends of the Zoo. So we're not asking for any more there. But we do have one more request. The Minnesota National Guard Child and Youth Program out of the Twin Cities area has contacted us and would like to do an overnight stay inside the zoo. I asked how many it would be. They said anywhere between 30 and 50 children. They're not sure how many adults. And we would do programming, educational programming. We did this, I think 4 or 5 years ago, we did an overnight stay, a sleepover. But we're asking that we would be able to do that again. I'm not sure how the policy sits with that. But they already want to schedule that so they can already get that scheduled in their programs. So it's actually a military group, a youth program. And they want to do that late August next year or early September. So I'm asking the council if we would be able to go ahead and schedule that as well. And then the positive note is we already are getting programming scheduled for 2015, some educational programming. So this is looking positive. We expect that this is going to be a one-time thing. The other thing I know we had talked about as a group is, you're all aware that there was a new zoo that opened up in Brainerd on 371. You know, we were kind of thinking, yeah, that might hurt. You know, it's a first time year and people are going to go see. And if you're family, you're going to go do one animal thing and you're going to go do a water park thing. And people went out of curiosity. We did have a fair amount of complaints about the facility. Our visitors came and had some complaints. And I think that's one of those things that we're going to weather just fine, just like we did with the Hemker Park Zoo that opened up in Cold Spring. They opened the first year, did the same thing, set us back a little bit. People were curious. And then it's just like everything else. It all just kind of works itself out. So did that hurt us? Perhaps. The weather sure did not help us at all. And so those are our requests for the council this evening.
Is that Brainerd Zoo, is that private?
It is a private owned zoo, yeah. And I don't know, Brian, there's debate as where the animals go, and I know there was concerns with some of our visitors because, you know, there's a giraffe. So we don't know the details to that. What I've heard is he actually had, I guess you'd call it a traveling zoo. And we have a keeper that lived down by the Oxbow Zoo, and he had a traveling zoo down there as well. And, you know, I don't know if he'll, you know, how long he's going to be here or if he's going to be here long term. I'm not sure, but we want to, you know, I always say, well, we're just going to take care of our own business and do what we can do and do it well. And that's all we can do. But I don't know where the animals go, but it is a private owned facility, yes.
Lori, the Crafty Trust, or the gift from the Crafty Estate, were there stipulations to that, or have we used any interest for?
We have actually, we did, I don't remember if it was 3 years ago or something, we did buy some equipment needs for the Friends of the Pine Grove Zoo. I think we bought what do we call it, a sedation gun, a dart gun kind of thing. And there were some capital expenditures that were made that were paid for out of the Crafty Trust. The trust does say, and because I brought it along, it says, in effectuating the purpose of this trust fund, the council may use the resources of the fund to acquire land, install equipment, contribute to maintenance, landscape and capital improvements to benefit the Pine Grove Park and Zoo. So you can use it for maintenance. And there is just over $33,000 in the fund.
Of interest.
Of interest, that doesn't touch the purpose then.
In the past, we've used that to pay off the debt.
Nope,
Remember the Crafty, it's always came from.
we haven't taken, the only money that's come out of here is just to do that one year we did some capital things for the zoo.
So the debt payment comes out of the other fund.
When we transfer money, we haven't done anything for a couple of years for that.
But I think the Dewey Trust has helped with that, hasn't it?
The Dewey Trust has helped with it, but it does not do it every year.
It did last year, didn't it? So that balance is just there, and we just pay on the interest.
Well, the Zoo Improvement Fund receives water tower revenue. We have antennas on the water tower over there. So the revenues, I think it's about $1,500 a month go into that fund so that it's paying down that debt slowly by $1,600 a month. And then on occasion, we've transferred money from the either the park improvement, the general fund, or the interest from the Dewey fund to help pay down that debt as well.
I'll have to look at Parks and Rec.
Parks,
Because
they haven't done it for quite a while. I don't think the last year or two, I don't think
I know we have talked about it. We discussed selling some property in this town, and that would go towards that. I don't know if it did.
Nope, that money's sitting in the equipment fund, and that's something else the council, because we didn't have there was not a firm decision made on what they wanted to do with that money, so right now I believe it's sitting in the equipment fund. And I need to figure out what the profit is on that, because we had assessments and other things to pay, and then the council needs to decide what they want to do with that.
Will we do that before the first of the year, Lori?
We may, usually all those transfers are done like in January, of next year for the previous year.
How long has that been sitting in there, just this last year?
Yeah, the one lot we closed on like in January or February, and the other one just because of some issues, we didn't close on it until like June or July or something like that.
Now, as far as the camping request that they've made, Frank, what is the policy now on camping in the parks?
There is no policy in place to camp in parks.
So that's not a possibility for them, or?
It's a discussion, an ongoing discussion. It's never even been presented to the council. We've discussed it. That's as far as we've gotten.
Well, I'm just bringing that up because of your request now about those 40 kids or something.
Yeah.
Looked at it under our city code 1020, subdivision 14, it says, and these are prohibited acts, it's to set up tents, shacks, or other temporary shelter for the purpose of overnight camping, nor shall any person leave after closing hours any movable structure or vehicle to be used for such purpose, such as a house trailer, camp trailer, camp wagon, or the like, except as authorized and posted. As I read that, you certainly need to have your city attorney look at it, but if it's authorized and posted by the council, I'm assuming that it's allowed.
For a one-time event, or, yeah.
Seems to me,
And how long has that policy been?
it's an
in the
ordinance,
code.
it's not a policy, it's in city code. I don't know. I'm just reading the literal reading of it, because we can certainly have a city attorney. I know it's been an issue in other things.
Well, that's why, I mean, have we heard that before, Lori, when there was that other issue going on? So, it sounds like it's a doable thing then for them, if we.
Seems like it, we want to be sure, we'll have a request, I put a note on it, we want to make sure we get the request, we'll have Tony look at it and bring it back to you guys. When do they want to know? This year?
Yeah, they kind of schedule their year out, so
Yeah.
they actually came to the zoo and did a tour and checked out the facility, because they've done it in Como Zoo and Minnesota Zoo, but they wanted to come to us, which I thought was great since they're from the Twin Cities. And I don't know, do you have to have a formal written request for that, or?
That'd be great, I mean,
Okay.
it'd be the best, and we have something to react to.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
And you have a nice spot for them?
Yeah, we put them down by the cafe in that big flat spot
Okay.
down there.
Not in the barracks,
No, probably not. Little richer for the bears, but not great
So
for
that's
the
actually
bushes.
not in the park, being the zoo, right?
Yep. That was my first question. I don't know, what's the park, a zoo? I was zoo park, I mean. As a zoo park, I think.
Yeah.
Is it, is it defined as?
Yeah, Captain Park and Captain Zoo.
And just so you guys know, we'd have staff staying there all night, so that there wouldn't be any issues with that. It is an enclosed facility, so that's nice, because we don't have to worry about somebody doing something silly and joining a group that's not supposed to be joining in. And they wanted to do things that go bump in the night and all the education that goes with nocturnal animals and things like that. And actually, the one year that we did do that, and it's been several years ago, we actually had a visitor, and it was a black and white striped critter. And so that was kind of fun for everybody to surprise the little skunk too, come around the corner and saw all of us there. So, but certainly would be something, like I said, if you need a written request on that, we certainly.
Yeah, and we can get it in front of the council.
Yeah. Do you do background checks on any supervision overnight like that? Like at a school, they shut down a lot of the camping on school property with kids and having parents come there because everyone who came there had to have a background check. You just can't. So something like this, do you do background checks on all the supervisors?
I'll be honest, Frank, this is the second one we do. So we, the first one was, like I said, several years ago. And they actually came with their parents. They had to come, they had either a grandparent or a parent that came with them. And then they did sign just a release, that they were staying there overnight. I guess I'd have to check, and what I'd probably do is check with other zoos that do this and see what, like, their policies are and what their criteria is. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, because this would be the second one we've ever done, so. I just thought it was pretty great that they're coming from the Twin Cities when they have two zoos right there, that they would come here, and then our hope is that they would like it enough that they would come back after the overnight stay.
Well, you have an impressive zoo.
Oh, thank you, Ronnie, thank you. And we certainly hope, that's our goal, is certainly to bring people in, not just for us, but the other community members.
Any more questions for Juanita? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You don't have anybody else coming in, Dan?
What?
No.
Is that where we are?
Yeah, now we're at the hard part.
Well, there's a number of items I think that need to be talked about. And what I would suggest you do is just get them done in order, or some type of a way to either vote it up or down, or give us consensus or where you're at, so we get through it. I hope to get through it tonight. I'm hoping to do that. You might want to talk about the items that we talked about tonight. I mean, first of all, we talked about the golf course. I mean, we've got $25,000 in the budget, same amount as 2014. We have in 2015 in the budget for the golf course, for the $25,000. If you want to keep it in there, that's great. If you want to do something else with it, I mean, we need that direction. So maybe that's the first thing. I've got just a whole list of items that maybe we put down.
It's such an attraction for our community. People come here for the golf course.
I think we should leave it in.
I do too.
Greg?
I think we either have to make a long-term decision, whether or not we're gonna keep it, and I would say that this time, we need to keep it operating, and to do that, I think we have to make that donation.
Well, it's almost like we're giving the money before the year even happens. You know, what if they do break even next
Then
year?
we don't give it to them. That was what our deal was.
Is that part of the deal? If they do break even, they don't get the $25,000?
It wasn't,
The transfer has not been made for 2014.
Okay.
Plan to do that, as I think Lori had said, I mentioned, we do that at the beginning of the year, beginning of the next year. That takes care of the previous year, so. And I thought we had the same thing as how we had talked about. I mean, if they have a great year, why we wouldn't? It
it
doesn't
was
seem
it was to cover any loss that they would have.
We do have, as was mentioned last night, and there's still a pretty substantial capital amount in red in that operation. We have two different funds there that amount to $500,000 or something like that. So there's still
We have to pay that
It's got to come back, but.
$500,000 back.
That's been there a long time. It's gone through for the years.
Figure out.
So
Some way.
we're just paying an interest on it, or where's that money? Where does
Yeah,
it-
yeah, we do. I mean, it borrows from other funds, because any fund that's in the red borrows from a fund that's in the positive. So yes, it does. And
So-
we at some point have to find a way to get that, make the golf course, or hopefully the golf course will be at a break-even point, but there still is the long-term debt that we have to, figure out how
Is that
we're
part-
gonna resolve that.
Is that interest part of the debt?
Sure, because it pays interest every month.
So we're marking that off, that part of the debt, part of this 21,000 we're in the hole right now is coming from that interest from the 500,000 we're paying?
No, it's not there, because that was in the,
It's a separate fund.
So in other words, we're paying more towards this zoo than just the 25,000. We're also paying interest fees for 500,000 each year.
The interest is part of what has made that fund so far in the red. I mean, that
I
500,000
understand
includes the
that.
interest expense.
But I'm just saying we're paying more than $25,000 here because we still are paying towards that 500,000. So it's more expensive than we actually think.
I'm not a golfer, and I live on the golf course.
What were
But
you
I
thinking?
do think it's a very valuable asset for the community. However, I think that we have to tighten some things up. One thing I think that we have, as a council, have to direct that the cameras be in place and functioning prior to the beginning of the next season.
The cameras are in and they're functioning.
They are.
However, that's not what we read in that report of the missing funds.
They weren't in
That was 2 years ago, that's before the cameras were put in. That report was from 2012. That's an old dog dragged out from underneath the rug again.
You mean that $600 thing?
Yeah, the 6, and then there was the 8, and that was from back in 2012. The
I
cameras
thought
went
that
in and
just,
they should.
I thought that just happened.
No, that was another whole stunt.
It was the
Drug out the back
$800
under the
one.
curb.
2.5 years ago it happened.
So that was not this last August?
No.
No, that was 2012.
So there's
Right on
two
the top of the
times,
first report.
2 times there's money missing?
No,
Oh, one, 2012.
Okay.
That was 2012, and the cameras are in and they are working, it's just a matter of where the disc is being beamed to. Where's it being recorded to? It's being recorded, we've got 30-day backup on it. And,
So if they want to go look at it after 30 days, they can go look at it.
Right, and they should be able to know if there's some money missing within 30 days. That's why I was so confused last night about that. So what's the big deal?
yeah, it's an old, it was an old issue that was there, so. But it was part of the purpose for putting cameras in.
Why was the issue brought up if it was time?
You have to ask the person that brought it up.
Residual campaign activity.
Well, Lori, this large debt of 400 and whatever thousand, who is that owed to?
City.
the city.
Right, so my point is, in essence, we're charging ourselves interest.
Yep.
And that's what's confused me this entire time about the zoo. Even it's our debt that we've assumed. And so keep
But we
it going.
borrow money between funds, you know, and
Definitely.
that's
Yeah.
the way you account for
Yeah,
it.
so you have to,
You can't take all the funds with the interest or with all the funds that have positive cash balances, they earn interest, but the ones that are sitting in the red aren't paying, you know, I
Right.
mean, it's,
It's still money that could have been used somewhere else, you know. What do we pay? You don't have to answer that right now, but I'd like to know what we're paying per year interest on that $500,000. I don't care how you shift it around or anything, I just would like to know that. It's just the same as the zoo debt. You
You're
know,
talking
it
about a
is,
zoo now. You're
I
talking-
know, it's interest, and
You're
interest
talking
is
about
killing
the,
us.
you're talking about the golf course, not the zoo.
I know, I was just using that as an example, okay? The interest on our debts are killing us. You know, if you look through in our bills, if we didn't have any debt, you know what we could do in this city?
Fill the
Sooner.
water park.
You didn't have any debt, you wouldn't have the streets.
Water park, that was, what are you talking about? That money was never even supposed to come from the city. You know?
Let's go on, I mean, we'll be here all
I'm
night.
getting sick of this kind of stuff though.
We have to do a cost-benefit analysis, and I think as you look at the cost of the golf course versus the benefit that it provides their community, I think it's a success.
And look, it's just not the, actually, but for golfers, look how many people utilize the clubhouse.
We had a civic center in Brainerd, and that was a raw spot with people. It was the same type of argument. It's losing money, it should make money, it's gotta make money, and the same arguments came up. It's like, okay, it is losing some money, but what's the benefit on the other end of it? And, I mean, there's good arguments, I think, on both sides, but the benefit of it outweighed, or usually won the argument. I'm not saying the right or wrong thing, but that usually won the argument. We lost money.
And Dan,
Wow.
you did have a a city-owned golf course up there, correct?
We don't have the city.
I mean, you did it one time?
No.
Oh, what was the one that went out?
No, the Brainerd, it's called the Brainerd Country Club, that was privately owned.
Oh,
Yeah, it was never
okay.
owned.
But there, wow, the bank had a lot of bad publicity for Brainerd when that.
Still talking.
Still does.
Still talking.
Could you
Anyway.
do a study?
It's-
Hire somebody to do a study. Is it cost effective? Which way? Does it make
It's
an
not.
I know, but
That's
is
funny.
it actually bringing that much of a benefit? You can do studies on that.
Did they do a study on that golf course years ago?
On our golf
Yeah.
course? I'm sorry, it wasn't. What type of a study?
Cost benefit?
If it's cost effective.
We looked at several years ago at having, basically leasing our golf course out to a private firm. And we had some people come in and look at, if it was feasible or not. But what happens is, if you lease it out to a private company, then it starts paying property taxes. And because it's property on the river, it gets taxed very highly. And so to have a private company come in and do anything with it isn't real feasible. It's an option, I guess, if, we can look at it again. We did some cost benefit stuff when we went up to small business, but not a real in-depth one because as a city, it's just a little more difficult because of the way we do accounting versus a private business.
Lori, wasn't there a time when the city leased out the food part of it?
Yes, yes.
So could they lease out the food and
If,
the liquor? Because it sounds like we're not expecting to make anything off of that, so if we lease it out for 10,000 a year, say, at least we'd have 10,000 coming in.
They did that, the last time they did it, why you should see, you notice the mess they had.
Yeah.
And it wasn't didn't Tom and Francie do that? And it was just, well,
Freeman did it.
Freeman's did it.
well, and before that, Tom and Francie, I
Yes.
think, did that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it just was not, financially good for them.
And it becomes difficult when you have one person managing the outside, one person managing the clubhouse, because if they have a golf tournament and the communication thing, because if you're having a tournament, those people are gonna wanna be inside, possibly having meals. They might wanna have their meal catered by somebody else. And so, it becomes a communication and a, work together issue, so that if they're having an outside tournament, that, the clubhouse is available, and if they have, a wedding or something scheduled, or a party or something scheduled at the clubhouse, that the course knows about it. And if we lease out the clubhouse part of it, it becomes taxable, because it's a for-profit thing.
And am I mistaken on this? I thought every year Randy is doing better every year. And am I
Well,
wrong?
it's on that sheet that maybe you were gone, Brian.
Yeah, read the sheet, I know.
2011 or whatever, I think, 2012 was pretty good, 13 and 14 are getting tough again, so.
But I mean, we really have to commend how well they've been doing. I mean, sure, they're gonna have some bad years.
Tough year from the water standpoint.
This year, the month of June was
Shot.
Well, that is.
So it's pretty simple, we're gonna give them 25 grand or we not?
That's the question.
That's the question.
$25,000 question, yes or no?
I say no.
I say yes.
What do you say?
I'm fine for it.
Okay, yep. So then,
Okay.
put it in there.
Okay, the Humane Society was the next one we talked about, and that, obviously, there's a $40,000 increase requested from 25 to 65. The county went up by 10,000 from 20 to 30. So, it's up to you how high you want to go with it. You got my opinion. I don't want it.
Well, according to the report they gave us, there really are about $44,000 due from the townships that they've not paid of the animals that have been serviced by the Humane Society. They do have in their budget a $5,000 contract with the county, so that still puts it at about $39,000. That money would, together with what we're currently spending, would provide us a full-time administrator.
We have a lot of dog and cat problems That's what we're facing.
What are the requirements for, you know, when they say they give it back to us? Are we required to operate a humane society?
Well, I think your community is gonna tell you that. There wasn't anything greater for a while. I gotta think back, this is a long time ago, the early 90s, I think, when I was there. And it became terrible, and then the Heartland Animal Rescue Team came into play. Other than the Humane Society there was some issue with that, and then Heartland Animal Rescue Team came in. And the area there contracts with that operation. I suppose it's similar to this. And like I said, it was $78,000. Plus we had a animal control person like you have here. Right, I guess.
Correct, so we, remember we paid him $400 a year too.
$400 a year, yeah.
Drag him in.
Here again, I think it's what's it worth to the community to have that operation, and is it worth 25,000? Is it worth 35, 45? Is it worth 50,000, 65, whatever? Now, a couple of years ago, if you look at their financials, I mean, they had a lot more. Looks like a lot more donations. How are they staffed? Are they paying? What are they paying over there? I don't know. I mean, that speaks to Robin's point about getting someone on the board or a little more oversight. I don't know.
They had some very generous donors that have passed away, and like she said, that's being whittled away. And we've been fortunate for all these decades to have those individuals that were doing that. But I don't think we realize what a mission they do and what our community could look if we didn't have that.
Well, and I didn't ask that question suggesting that we did do it. I just wanted clarity on, because I know we had that discussion with the county, and I didn't know if there was something statutory that we had to provide, or that's what I got out of that meeting.
I don't know the statute that well. I just know that when you pick up a dog, you got to keep it for a certain period of time before you euthanize. I think it's up to 10 days or something now. It's expensive. How long do they keep the dogs? I mean, you have dogs or cats that are there a long, long time. I mean, what does that add incrementally though to the cost? I mean, if you're coming to feed, if you're coming to clean up another can or whatever, is that taking out?
Well, the thing is, you look at the cats, and they euthanized 40 cats this year, and if they put the $430, that's almost $17,000 they put into them, and then they put them to sleep anyhow.
You said, Brainerd.
We talked about that. We had a meeting with Rose and others in that operation, and it's
it's probably more than
the argument on the other side is if you don't, and she had a good argument, if you don't do anything from a vaccination standpoint, you have something go through that whole operation, now you've really got a lot of costs and veterinary bills. Because I said the same thing. Why do you bring them in and boom, almost, you don't know if that cat or dog has been vaccinated or not. Maybe they have, and it's just bugging enough. But how do you know? You don't know.
The thing is, when you look at it too, they had, 300 and some cats, and only 4 people come and reclaim their cat out of all that were brought into the pound.
It's like you said, 6 of them there on the step today, or 4, or whatever. So it's I guess again, we're back to the value to the community and how much. What was it? Like I said, the 65 is in the budget.
I know how many complaints we get if there's someone has 4 dogs in their yard, the police have to take care of it. I mean, if we don't do this, we probably will spend a lot more money on the police taking care of the issue, and we'll have to hire another police officer at $65,000 a year.
Sure, yeah. We did that for a while. Police were picking up dogs and cats, just make a mess out of the cars, and they're not animal control people.
But it would if we didn't have them.
Somebody's got to do it. And then where are we going to go? I mean, they got a beautiful building over there, that's for sure.
Brian, you always, every year, vote, you don't OKR levies, you always want 0%. But yet, every time we have these meetings, you come in, well, let's put money toward this, let's put money toward this and that. That comes from levy money. How do you manage to do that?
Can I explain that to you?
Yeah, I want to hear your
Because
reasoning.
it's penny wise and pound foolish. All let's get another squad car. Let's get a splash pad. Well, we have basics to take care of, and this is basics.
No
You know,
splash pad ever came out of these budgets.
I've listened to you, Frank, on those
No,
issues.
no splash pad.
Well, let's not get into that. Let's,
Yeah.
we're
I'm just
doing
saying,
the
I'm
budget,
making my point.
we're doing the
I was
budget.
only answering his
$65,000 for
question.
cats and stuff. And you're really for this 65,000 apparently.
You have such
I'm
a
not
problem,
saying-
don't you, Frank?
I'm not saying.
Did you understand one word that I said? Paying $2 a month for health insurance for years? That makes no sense, Frank. I've been beating that drum for years.
we're talking budget now, come on, people, let's forget about this. If you
I
got,
was
you got personal things to
No,
talk
this-
about,
I was-
go out in the hall.
This
Mr.
is about the
President, I
money
was
here.
answering a question.
This is about the money here, the way I'm looking at it. You're looking at it.
You
paying
sure don't respect the chair, do you,
65,000.
Frank, with that mouth of yours? Did you
What
hear
are
what he
doing?
said?
What are you doing?
Did you hear what he said?
Forget it.
I forgot
I'm
about
not
you a long
voting for
time ago.
65,000.
You know, another item of concern is I have a little trouble with when it costs $50 a day to keep a cat. What's the average population in the place? They have 200 and 400 animals over the course of the year, with just, I don't know how many they have at one time, but $50 a day for a cat sounds awfully expensive. And I realize you've got overhead, you got insurance, you got all that good stuff. But to have somebody come in and feed and clean up once a day, I'm not certain that $50 per animal is required.
What's your wishes, people?
I told him my wish, not voting for 65,000. Too much.
Anybody wanna throw a figure out there then?
Madison County, 30,000.
All right with that.
I would not vote for 65. I would prefer 25, but I would accept 30 if I had to.
Yeah.
We give 30,000 for our kids, 30,000 for the wild cats and dogs.
My only concern is what's gonna happen. How are they gonna struggle? And, I know we can ask them to be more cost effective. But if they have a $72,000 shortage for the year, and I don't agree with the 65 either. I would easily, in a heartbeat with 30, but I don't know if that's enough. And, it's just a bad deal because it's tough either way. I don't think it's that any of us are against the Humane Society or animals, but if you look at asking for a 200% increase or whatever it is, we don't, anybody else we laugh at. I know it's a laughing matter, but it's.
Yeah, and part of my concern too is that we've got that $39,000 that we're paying for the townships.
Well, in essence, one thing that the townships will say, and I've said it before, and I've got in trouble saying it, we're also part of the taxpayers of Little Falls are also paying part of that $30,000 that the county's donating. And so that's what the townships are also saying, well, we're part of the county, so the county's putting in $30,000, that's our money. So why should we put more money in?
And the county township meeting that they had at the courthouse here a year or so ago, we brought out the state law says that the townships are responsible for the plan.
Yeah, but like she said though, you don't know where they come from, because like those cats, tell them, they could have come from Timbuktu, who knows? Or from the cities or wherever. You don't know, maybe they should have a camera on the front door.
May I make a comment, please?
This is a budget meeting now.
Yeah, but I want to make sure that you're not missing something here.
Well, we're running out of time anyway,
Okay, well, look,
What
do you have a copy of this?
I 30,000.
right?
Well, let's get Dan's opinion. I missed part of the beginning of her presentation. What's going to what's the lowest that'll help preserve that?
Well, they're saying that if if they don't get the allocations, that they'll probably have to come back to us. They'll give it up. I'm wondering if you make an allocation and we do a first quarter review, a mid-year, or whatever review as far as, okay, how did you end up your year? And the problem is if you try considering something more at mid-year or whatever, we don't have a budget for. I mean, that, you can take it out of reserves or whatever, right? Well, my honest opinion, I think 30 is too little. I'd be more comfortable probably with 40. I don't think the 65. You got to give them. I mean, they got to get incentive to get out and fundraise. They've got to have an incentive. You don't just give everything to them. But I think that's just my opinion. I just think 30 is. Well, it's your decision.
So can we budget 40 or 50 and guarantee them 20, or guarantee them 30 and budget 40? And review it halfway through the year, or? But the thing is, if you know,
I still think you should have a review with them at some point.
The thing is, though, if they know we got the money stashed away, are they gonna be as proactive out there trying to raise money, or they know they're gonna get another 10, or they're counting on another 15, because we got in their budget, they'll be here, and we're gonna give in, because they're gonna have to throw it on our doorstep again.
I think they're
I'm not
gonna,
saying we have to.
yeah, I think they're gonna wonder how they're gonna come up with the other 25.
All right, you wanted to say something?
Well, the report that they handed out, that profit and loss is through December, so that's gotta be a projected number, that isn't actual numbers, that's what they're projecting, so we don't really know how they're gonna come out at the end of the year. And if you wanna do something like you suggested, we can stick $10,000 in a contingency, we don't have to put it in their line item, you can put 30,000 or whatever you want, and then put 10,000 in a contingency for them, and like Dan suggested, do a review January or February or something, and see how they came in for 2014, see what they're gonna get from the townships in 2015, and discuss it again.
That sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Can we could we do Dan's recommendation of 40,000 instead of 30?
Well, we're gonna put in
Guarantee
30 and
we'll put 40 in the budget,
10 in the.
10 in contingency after review.
I'd be okay with that.
Does that make sense, Dan?
Sounds good. What you got next, Dan?
Zoo, I guess the funding, and I think that was just it's really not a budget item.
No, but they would like the money, so if it's something we would agree to, I can have them do a formal request, and then I'll just put it in with the bills next time.
From the crafting?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't decided on an amount yet, right?
Yeah, we didn't, so.
From the crafting interest? They don't want all the interest, do they?
I believe, I
That's
didn't
what
hear them
she
give a
said.
specific amount, but I think they want it all, yeah. I know she had said 30, 35 when I talked to her earlier.
I think if it gets them out of, they did have a bad year, and that's what the money's for, I don't see no problem.
We'll have her make a written request, bring it to your next council meeting. It's a-
But we're talking about 110 now.
So you have the same thing coming, she'll have a request with that campaign, that she'll make a written request, and the council will decide on. Now, we've got some other items that we need to talk about. One is the city administrator. If you look at the additional cost over and above the cost you have in the budget for me, which is $45,000. If you go up to the 135 at the top end, I don't know how you got to go. That's both. It includes benefits. That's not just salary, obviously. And then if you look at the search, on the search end of it, you've got 7,000 to 30,000. Again, we know that we don't want to go to 7,000. We know his normal search is 14,000, and NGP is going to pay half. But whether or not you take that person, I don't know. You did just adjust your budget by 25,000 because we had 65 in the animal control. you drop that to basically 40, 30 plus 10 in the contingency, so you have 25, right? 25 available, so you're thinking that, I just thought that a round number on between, for the city administrator would be about 100,000. That would include having the person full-time plus the search. If you take, what is it, 25 off of that, so 75. So you gotta come up with $75,000 in your budget. You also don't have summer help for streets, one summer help for Maple Island, one full-time. You still got the full-time police officer in there. You wanna keep that in there, you know what that's for. Greg certainly is here, we talked about it yesterday. The other item, if you're to come up with $75,000, you know, you've got other discussion items. You've got your capital. We've got $400,000 in capital. It's a $1,000 increase from last year. We had $399 in capital last year. We also have a $222,350 increase in streets. Last year we had $75,000 in streets. This year it's what, 390 something, just about 400, 382, whatever. It's or 300,000, whatever. It's a big increase in your street improvements, but you know, we've got some issues there. So, you know, those are some of the items that, if you leave your levy as it is, as you know, you will drop the tax rate. Leaving it at what comes to a 9.99% increase, you will drop the tax rate, because as you know, as you probably recall from the preliminary budget meetings, if we could go up 13 point almost 3/4%, 13.74%, we could have gone up and left the tax rate the same. But you lowered that by about $120,000, $130,000 to get down to the 10%. So that's similar to last year. Your tax rate did go down last year. So even what you've done so far at the 9.99, you are going to lower your tax rate. So that's just going to happen. So in order to fund the city administrator, you need to come up with $75,000 from somewhere. We also need to talk, we can talk about the capital, and Brian brought up the restrooms here, but yeah, you can move some things around during the year. We know we've got some sidewalk stuff to do outside. We've got parking lot. We're estimating costs. Maybe the costs won't come in as high as we thought they would be, and we can do some other things. So.
Dan, was anything budgeted for the possible new, you know, the water park area? Was anything designated? So those grants, like that $100,000 grant that was written, was there anything matching to that?
No, there's no money in the budget for that at all. So, I mean, right now, based on where the budget's at, you come up with $75,000 to fund the administrator position. Where you get that from, you know, I talked about some options. You got your capital, you've got your street improvement, you've got, you know, I suppose there's a number of other things you can try looking at cutting.
Well, I know that the reason that it's of great immediacy is because of the budget, the discussion of full-time administrator, and you know, there's a couple things that you know, kind of pull at me, and one is that something that should be, the decision that should be made on that at the end of terms, or should that be made at the beginning of terms with the people that have been out going door to door and campaigning? And believe me, I can be steered either way. But one of the points that came up in the discussion in the last couple of days was the fact that the following year our debt will drop a couple $100,000, and we could afford to do some other things. And since search at times, I would guess, would take 3 months or more for a city administrator, would there be any desire to go with part-time administrator for one more year as we get into less debt the following year. And that just came to mind when we had discussions.
But Greg, I think if it's budgeted, that doesn't mean that the new council
Right.
will go that
Right,
direction.
yep. So that is something that the new council could look at, so.
Yeah, so far, just putting an RFP out for search firms, I mean, we're talking about the second meeting in December to get those back. There's no requirement for you to say, okay, we've got to do it on that meeting. Wait till the new people get in, and you can have that discussion first meeting in January. That's not an issue. As far as part-time, I mean, I had talked about staying around in 2015 anyway. So that, I mean, it's really up to you. Like I said, don't think about me in this equation. Think about what you think you want to do for the.
Well, and that's
for the
what I was
city.
doing, and I know Jeremy has concerns about the full-time administrator, and I know that there's two sides of it, and I know that there was a lot of discussion in the community about whether or not there's a need for a full-time administrator, so I think it's a great discussion to have.
If you do it, it depends when you want to put the person in place. You know, if you do it at mid-year or you do it at 3/4 of the year, obviously you're lowering that cost this year. So it might be something that we can fit into the budget if you do it later in the year or so.
If you wait until the end of June and like your July, and then go put it out to your service, you get your people with your, it's gonna take till the end of the year to get one anyway, basically.
I just think the search is gonna be, I mean, that's 4 to 6 months by the time we go through it. I mean, because there's a bunch of prep work that I don't know that we're all thinking about. The prep work is gonna be having that person do the job description. Then they gotta sit down with the council, the new council, and talk about what you want. Then the position description is put together by the search company, and then it's advertised out. The advertisement's gonna be 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, and lining up the interviews and getting people in here. And then after the search is done, when I left, it was like 45 days I had to give. So, I mean, there's another couple months just for someone to leave their job and start a new job. So, I mean, you're talking
I think
4
I'm
to 6
the only,
months.
I think I'm the only council member here that was on the hiring of Garrison Hale. Am I right on that? And, I mean, it took practically a whole year to get into administrator, so.
It depends what you get. You may not like what you get the first round and you go back out. I mean, Brainerd didn't hire the first time. They threw everybody out after that.
It's not an easy process.
No.
It's not.
Well, it's one of the most important things that we do.
What you were saying,
I'm sorry.
75,000, you just showed us we don't need 75,000. Even if we hired somebody in 3 months, that'll be 25,000 less. Because they're not gonna get a full year's wage for 9 months. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So you're cutting off some of that. We're looking more, even at the best case scenario, we need to budget $50,000 more. If somebody was hired in 3 months. But the way, listening to Mr. Crowder, it's probably gonna take 6 months to even longer.
You could.
So,
And that's what I think they were just already said, so.
so maybe you can do the same thing, budget out 50,000 towards it, beyond what we cut so far, and then put that in a fund that if it is needed, it can be used.
We can talk about, anticipated start date of whatever. We could say it's July 1, or we could say it's October 1, or whatever. And you can have that discussion when you meet with that person. If we don't have the money in the budget, then, or less money in the budget, it makes a difference on when this person starts.
Is the pickup with the snow plow for the Parks and Rec, is that in addition to what they have, or is it a replacement?
That's a replacement.
That's replaced.
Replacement.
Yes.
That could be put off for the next year,
I
and
would-
there's 30,000 right there.
That one was put off this year?
That was put off this year. That pickup is in need of replacement.
What about the front end loader?
That one's starting to show, I mean, it's 2003, it's starting to rust a little bit around the cab. If we push it off a year, then we're gonna have a front end loader and a plow truck in the same year. That gets to be quite a bit of, expense on that particular fund.
So you're gonna buy two front end loaders, there's a front end loader for $215,
Just one, and
and then there's one for $200.
what we were originally doing on that, the $265 amount, $265,000 was a budget number we had in there from years past.
Okay.
After I met with the rep, based on the trade-in value of our front end loader and what the new one is, it's right around that $110,000 mark. So we can take the 2016 amount off of there, which 140, I think, is what's on that. I don't have it.
163, so that will come.
163.
That will come off.
Doesn't help you for this year.
That doesn't help us for this year. though.
Maybe
Right.
I missed it, but did we account for the 25,000 that we're not giving to the Humane Society?
We did.
Yeah, that was where I said it, we originally needed 100,000, of the city administrator to back with the 75. I mean, if you would like, I mean, there's two ways, I think there's two major areas that you can look at if you want to come up with 50 grand or whatever. I mean, it's either capital or street.
What about that pumper truck, that fire pumper truck? I don't want to tie their hands in any way, but is that a replacement or an addition?
That's a little bit of both, I guess. We already paid $88,000 out of that. We had that budgeted 2 years ago. We had a budgeted for $300,000, I believe it was, Lauren, 2 years ago. And by the time we got all the specs and everything written on that, we ended up to be this year. And so, yeah, that's going to be, what it's going to be is going to replace our east side truck. We're going to take the east side truck and put it on the west side. That'll upgrade it up from the 1989 pumper that we have over there.
And that's included in the fire equipment fund, and that one is,
That was separate.
that's funded by the agencies outside agencies that do business with us.
So that's not something we want to play with.
And no, that one's not really needed. I mean, if you would like, tell us, just give us where you'd like the money to come from. We'll come back with if it's 350 in the equipment fund, or if it's 25 out of the equipment fund and 25 out of the street improvement. Take
That's
a
a
little
good
bit out
idea.
of both. We'll come back with a budget that'll balance.
That's
Just
a
so
fair
the council-
compromise.
Just so the council knows that street improvement fund is street overlays, only street overlays. So that isn't new construction or reconstruction or any of those kinds of things. That's a different pot. So this is just, basically to do some overlays and that type of thing. So which is a lot more than we've had in a lot of years.
So one thing to.
And we need a lot of overlays.
They do, and I know that they do, but,
$1 in preventative maintenance equates to about $7 worth of reconstruction in the future. So, paying out and paying a lot. I understand we're looking at budget and trying to come back with it. We don't want to turn too much either.
I remember your equipment fund. I mean, we've pushed a lot of things off. We continue to do that, and we continue to budget about 400. But if you do 25 out of each, as I suggested, you're reducing your equipment fund by 25, and you still have about $200,000 increase on the streets. I don't know.
That sounds like a good idea, I think.
We'll come back with the 50,000 that we've adjusted. We'll come back with the city administrator. We can do a little bit of calculation on that as far as when the person could start.
So sometime
based on that.
next week then we will meet again, or?
We don't have to.
Oh.
If you'd like to do that, I can bring it. You're welcome to. I don't care.
No, I'm
It's
just-
not required. We can come back and explain at the budget meeting. Now, your budget meeting is on the 1st. If you'd like to meet one time before that, let us know.
We don't have to meet tomorrow then.
No, I won't be here tomorrow, sorry.
Dan, the bathroom thing, Dan,
Um,
the bathroom issue about that remodeling for the handicap?
That's, I mean, that's something that isn't in the capital for this year, something you can take a look at.
Is that something we can look at?
It's about 20.
Well, I don't know, it's $20-some thousand, so it's,
Can you juggle some things around and just give a proposal when we meet, how we would do that?
Yeah,
I think that's something that we can-
20,000 is, I mean, we can take a look at this and take a look at how we might be able to do it.
Water sewer rates, do you have, can I get direction from the council on water sewer rates? We
I-
talked about that a little bit last night, we had the
yeah,
packet here.
I thought, you recommended item C, didn't you? Or-
Yep, but didn't really hear a response from the council as far as. what they-
I looked at it, I'm fine with it, because we're gonna have some big expenses. And we could have a lot of expenses with the waste treatment plant if MPCA
Oh, for sure.
has their way.
We will have a lot of expenses.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
I agree with
Yes.
Don, that makes sense.
Okay.
Well, it's not like it's more profit.
no,
It's, all it's doing is
You,
Planning for
yeah,
the future,
yeah.
planning for the future.
And for your information, the budget meeting coming up on December 1st is a public hearing. So any, the residents who will get their tax statements between, or proposed tax statements, used to call it truth in taxation statements, before the 1st of December, should be getting in the next week or so. And you still have the opportunity to adopt your budget between then and the end of December. So if you want to do some different things with the budget, you have your public hearing based on what the public input is, and you can make some adjustments still. See how the public reacts to what they see. I'm going to guess that because the rate is going to go down again, we'll probably have the same number of people we usually have at those meetings. One.
that's the most we've ever had.
Yeah, I know. We had originally scheduled a meeting for tomorrow night. You probably just want to, know that meeting is being canceled and that we'll come back at the meeting on the 1st of December and listen to what the public comments are and either adopt your budget Monday or you don't have to.
Should we just adjourn this one, or should we have a motion to adjourn?
Before we adjourn, I'd like to point out, I might be gone on the 1st for a little bit, so if there's any items on the agenda, I don't know exactly what I'm going to have on there. Feel free to come into my office the day of or before. My son's got his first wrestling practice, so I don't know how long it's going to be, if it's a half an hour thing or what, but I'll be gone for some portion of it, but I'm going to get back as soon as I can, so.
Probably an hour.
All right.
We need a motion to adjourn? Yeah, I already had one. You got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
We adjourn.